All right, everybody. Hello. I am hiding behind my glasses a little bit. We're taking a break. This is actually the very first live stream on the Shagsworth live channel because I needed to start separating some of this stuff and not taking over everything on my main channel, but still share these videos afterwards on the main channel, and even make it maybe a little bit easier to cut them up and then move them over to
Okay, so it seems that Shags just decided to yeet himself from this stream. So I'm
wow.
sure he'll be back in a second.
How embarrassing. I hit the back button on my mouse.
I thought so.
Oh man. Anyways, so yeah, we're trying to take off a little bit on this new live channel, grow this over here, and start doing the bulk of my live shows on the on this channel, and then kind of move everything over to the main channel once the live shows are over. Opportunities to monetize another channel, and then separate live streams from the other one, just so my algorithm doesn't get too messed up anymore. But thank you, Silvar, for joining. Anyone else who might be enjoying this VOD later on, thank you for joining. And Mr. Grant Gregory, thank you for joining as well and encouraging me to do this stream because I think it's a much needed venture. How are you doing?
Yeah, anytime, and I'm happy to be on a stream where we can just talk about something that we love, even if it's just for a little bit, just to bit of a brain and a palate cleanser.
Yeah,
As you as you can hear, I've got my little one in the background. She's reading a book, and she's very excited to read it to you, even though I tried to tell her that you can't read back to her.
yeah. I would love to read to you, sweetie, but it's Uncle Shags is too far away. Can't see ya. One day though. One day we'll share a book.
Plus that weird accent that you guys have.
Yeah, yeah. Um. So yeah. So this, I don't know. I really quickly haphazardly named this show segment "The Break," just because I thought, well, it's pretty clear and concise what it is. It's a break from everything that I think people usually do, and that's complain about a lot of things. But I thought, Grant Gregory thought it would be a good idea to just talk about, um, something we enjoy, media, game, whatever. Um, excuse me. So yeah, that's really kind of where we're at. And I don't know, Grant, why don't you start us off? I mean, this is kind of your brainchild to start. Um, what what is your favorite movie of all time? Like something you can put on and watch 5 or 6 times in a row.
Okay, favorite movie
Yeah.
versus my all-time favorite movie, because I think you got to separate your moods. So my favorite, anytime, turn it on, doesn't matter what sort of mood I'm in, and I can watch Fifth Element without a doubt.
Ooh.
It
Yes.
has it has some of the best action in it. It has some of the best comedy. Rudy Rod is a god, plain and simple. Um, it's silly enough that it doesn't take itself seriously, but it's serious enough at certain points that it has levity. So it's a good mix. If I'm feeling in a more serious sort of mood, my all-time favorite movie, and this is one that I always get a lot of slack for, but I'll constantly stand by it till the end of time. Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind is my all-time favorite movie.
That's interesting. What Okay. So what is it? Because that movie, that's a really heavy movie, I think. And it's an interesting one to have as like your all-time favorite. Can you go in depth a little more about why that's your all-time favorite?
You can put the look away, darling. You. Well, basically, when it comes to it, it's like it has an all-star cast. I mean, you got Mary Jane, you got Frodo, you've got the Hulk, you've got the Riddler. You've got all these people that are in it. Like, obviously, I named the nerd versions of it, but I don't even look at it as a high concept sort of thing. I just think everything that it does in it is extremely well executed, and the whole point of the thing, which no one seems to get. Is it's not about them going back to their relationship at the end, and it's not necessarily about second chances. It's about a first chance again, your first chance. because if you take away, everyone says they get a second chance, but when you get a second chance, you've got the knowledge of everything else that you've done beforehand. They
Right.
at the end of the movie, they get to do their first chance again as different people. So,
Yes.
and I think I love that. I love that concept in it, and the whole idea of, um, memories fading and a physical aspect of it. I love the way in which the director done that. He's the next movie that they did was very similar to that, where it was a little bit more high concept about consciousness, reality, and everything. But yeah, I fell in love with everything. I don't have a fault in um I don't have a fault in it, and that's why for me it's my favorite movie, because people can point out something that plot wise might not make sense, but I go, no, I get that. I can I can put everything together in a nice little piece.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You know, the uh, you say that, like, even with the plot holes and all that, like there's a the overall message of the movie, or what you've taken out of it, is that, like, these people get to experience their very first moment together again, and that's not, it never happens. Like, it's just something that,
Yeah, yeah.
so
Not only that, like we've seen how how they were so dependent on each other, then they were codependent, then they were toxic to each other, and all that took everything away, and they still had their first encounter, and they still had that attraction to each other years
mhm,
later. They
yeah,
weren't the same looking, they weren't acting the same. The whole idea of being able to remove someone's memories, that's a kind of a cool thing, and I think that's, for a sci-fi lover like myself, that element was barely even touched on in it. It was just a part of the plot. It was just an accepted thing,
yeah.
where it wasn't fully explained. Like, we have to go through the subtitle context to do this and everything. And um, yeah, I think everything that they did in the film visually
Mhm.
was appealing, and I think it's probably Kerry's best acted movie that he's ever done.
Yeah,
I think his subtlety in that speaks volumes, because you felt for him, and neither of them were the good guys, and neither of them were the bad guys in the relationship.
that's a good point. Yeah, and, like, the more I think about that movie, the more I think of, like, just how beautifully shot it was. There's so many good shots in that movie. I mean, the cover art one
Yeah,
where, like,
everyone
the
goes to the frozen lake scene and everything,
yeah,
but that's just one aspect of it.
yeah. Well, no, and like I said, I think it does a lot of things right, but I think, but even, like, the soft
Oh,
sci-fi
sorry,
angle of it,
I'll be back in 1 second, buddy.
yeah, no, you're fine. Um, I think the soft sci-fi aspect of that movie is brilliant as well, because it's not something that they really lean into that much. But like Grant said, it's just kind of, it's just used to tell the story and, like, understand their relationship and their past relationship and the dynamic and how it unfolds. And and on top of that, Jim Carrey is stellar. Like, it's such a different role than everything that his whole catalog is goofy comedy. And I think up until that point, I think he had pretty much all goofy comedy. And then he had, I mean, the Cable Guy was under his belt at that point, which is dark comedy. Um, and then this movie was, like, about as heavy as it gets, as far as what he had done up until that point. And I might be missing something, but I remember when I first saw it, I was just blown away by his performance. Much like when Robin Williams started doing his more serious acting, and how he was, like, really just showing his range and going from goofy comedy comedian, to just, like, I mean, and I guess, I actually, now that I think of it, he had done Man on the Moon. I think at that point he had done Cable Guy.
Majestic and the Majestic, which
Oh, The
was another one.
Majestic. I always forget
Yeah.
about that one. Yeah. Um oh, that's really good. It's funny because I get such mixed reviews on Eternal Sunshine. Some people think it's dog shit and don't like it, and I'm like, I don't know how you don't like this movie, because I think every time I watch it, like, I shed a tear. Like, easy. Like, it's just, by the end it gets so choked up.
You see,
Um,
I don't even get that emotional with it. I just, for whatever reason, it's a journey that I enjoy watching because they pick up
yeah,
on little subtle things each different time, and um, yeah, like, and even the I think for me the moment that was a little like it was almost like, oh, this is taking a darker twist than I expected was when Elijah Wood's character calls the main chick a tangerine, and he's like,
yeah,
"That's my name," but then immediately he forgets that that's what
yeah,
he called her. So that moment that he had was painful, but it was fleeting, and it was just like, yeah, it works. It works on many different levels.
yeah.
What about yourself? Do you have a movie like that?
There's, I've watched so many movies. It's hard to narrow down, like, because we could go through a list of 25 different movies, and I'll find something great about so many of them. But the one that I always kind of go back to as like a movie I could watch over and over again is, and this will sound cliche, but actually, mm, I don't know. There's a few, but The Shawshank Redemption is one that I could like just watch all the time.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not
dude,
even.
I get that. Like how Darabont was able to tell a story through just the camera lens as well
Mhm.
is like him and Deacon together is just like an iconic like duo. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I can get that. Even though it is a heart wrenching story, I get the same sort of vibe from that film as I do with Eternal Sunshine.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many great moments there. Another one I really like that is just sort of out there is Jackie Brown. It's another, I just think it's a very underrated Quentin Tarantino film. Um, I just feel good when I'm watching it. Like it just feels like such a great experience. Every single the soundtrack is just it just fits everything.
It's got a pretty sick opening to it.
Yeah,
Tarantino knows how to, yeah.
like he just his the sometimes the shock value of his like cinematography, like even though he reuses a lot of things, a lot of shots and everything, but it's just so good. It's incredible how much he knows film, uh, and how well he can tell a story. And I started reading actually the book that uh Jackie Brown is based off of, which is different.
Yeah,
Um
it is a bit different.
um
With especially a lot of the auxiliary characters.
mhm, excuse me. But yeah, no, really the movie I will like almost always turn on just well actually so those two are kind of like in my like my top 5 easy. They kind of flop around no matter what. A movie that I'll just like my favorite movie to just put on, like to put on. This is a hard one. I've been thinking about this the past couple of days. This is such a hard question for me to answer. But I'm really racking my brain of the movies that it I answer. So when I was on Devil Made Me Do It's Get Ranked show, and they'd asked like a similar question, but uh any early like 90s Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Like
No, I get that.
they're just fun. Like Kindergarten Cop. I don't know why. I could watch that movie 1,000 times, and it's one I like to just put on sometimes in the background, just because I could say so many of the lines from it.
That that's definitely key. Unlike a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, Kindergarten Cop has the ability that you can quote, and not all of them are from Arnold.
Right.
Where most of
Yeah.
his other ones are from him. Where this
Yep.
one, yeah, and I think that's why it feels like there's so many more quotable moments because, well, there is.
Well, that was another one like you were saying earlier with my God, my brain just totally shut off. Um you don't like with the Fifth Element, there's good mixture of like action and humor and at this point, he had been known for, he's the big action star, right? And now he's a softy
It's the
kindergarten.
shell breaking sort of thing, Unlike
Yeah.
what they do now, where they just completely feminize the action hero,
Hmm.
put him in a dress and everything. That was a true shell cracking sort of thing. And
Yeah.
then you see it. You also see it in, even though he was playing a robot in Terminator, too. Like that was essentially the same sort of thing. And there's a lot of these other roles that he did, and I think that's why those earlier '90 ones were doing it. And then, I mean, if you want to talk about breaking the shell, how can you go past Twins? Like
Yeah,
that. That's
Twins.
yeah,
But yeah, Twins was really good. It didn't have the same impact for me as like Kindergarten Cop did.
yeah.
But yeah, like those kinds of movies, like it was always just fun to have them in the background because there was you, like and I'm cleaning the house or I'm like doing laundry or so I'm doing dishes and I can have that movie playing, and then like when I know action's coming up, I can stop and like watch him do his thing, and then okay, go back to it, and then laugh at the lines and the different scenarios that these guys are in. Um, and I was actually thinking, what was it? I was thinking the other day about the Daily Wire just dropped their trailer for Girl Ballers, and I thought this has the potential of being like one of those kind of early '90s, like I don't know, like
Yeah, like like a raunchy comedy sort of thing.
yeah,
Yeah, uh, I put it more in tune instead of the same in the '90s, probably closer to the early 2000s.
yeah. That's better.
You
Yeah,
know, maybe late '90s, like something sort of thing like that's a parody of something like basketball.
yeah, or
Um,
like a National Lampoons type of thing where they're
yeah,
totally just taking the piss out of everything, but like still trying to tell a funny story. My concern with it is that every single funny part of that movie was exposed in the trailer. Uh, that was my criticism of, but like that was one of those things. I'm like, well, I know what Daily Wire is trying to do with this, but it looks funny. Like it looks like they have something here, and I hope they do. It'd be cool to see a raunchy comedy like that again actually work.
well, I mean, Jennifer Lawrence did one recently, and that was a mild success. You
Hmm.
know, bringing
Yeah.
back that style of raunchy comedy. I don't know if this is just going to be a purely political type sort of thing, and it's hard because when you're seeing all the right wing pundits in the show, like
Right.
in the movie, so you're like, okay, so this is where it is. I don't like political films, whether they're lean left or lean right. If it tells a story in there and it's designed to take the piss out of it, and I think that's going to be the point when they're smashing all of them. And then the black guys come in because they've got a natural advantage, and they're
Yeah.
gonna because they're actual athletes. And um, I don't know if it's going to turn around and be one of those things where they have to get the women in at the end to come and defeat them, or if they're just going to get the floor wiped with them, and then they go, all right, let's try something else.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
else? What else will work?
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I think it has the potential to. Well, I think it's going to do better than Snow White is that they're doing. So
Yeah, because I think the comedy, well, they both have
both
potential
have
audience
Brett
appeal.
Cooper in both as well. So
Yes, true. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's potential audience appeal for both of them. Um, but yeah, the issue, like as you've kind of said, is like they're they seem to be politically charged, or at least the reason behind making them is politically charged, and that I think might be the kiss of death for them. Um,
see, I don't care if a movie's for being made was a political. If someone goes out there and makes a 100% anti-Trump film, and the whole purpose was this to be a film that was against Trump, but it's a good movie, and the movie itself isn't hyper political, just the reasoning behind it.
mhm,
Um, because the amount of times, how many times did we see, oh, this is an allegory for Trump, this, and it had nothing to do with it. It was just the
right.
people who made it thought, oh, this guy has characteristics against the guy that we don't like, and that's why
Right.
they made it.
Yeah.
So
No, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what was his name in Wonder Woman 2. Maxwell Lord. They changed him to try and be
Yes.
a Trump allegory, and it turned out that
Yes.
he ended up being the best character in it, the one
Right.
that people actually liked.
Yep.
So
Um, yeah, so I mean, kind of backtracking to, films, but like the favorite film rather. Yeah, it's always weird to say like, "Oh, my favorite film of all time is Shawshank Redemption." And people are like, "Oh, I get it. I get it." It's just but even it some people will say like, "Oh, the best film I think of all time is this," but I couldn't watch it over and over again. Where like to me, like I could put Shawshank Redemption on repeat and just watch it over and over again. Just I mean, because it's a beautiful film, great storytelling, but also just beautifully shot. And I don't know, man. Like every time I watch that, it feels like I'm watching that movie for the first time. And I don't
I get it.
know.
Like, yeah, I understand that, but that's the power of that filmmaking, that they can do that. It's a
Mhm.
story that and you know when the bits are coming up. You know the sad part with Brooks and everything. You're like, oh, I know this is going to be hard to watch, and
Yep.
then you know when it says and Red was here too. You know he's not going to do anything, and you smile. And the way in which I like to look at that film, it's just a road trip movie about two bros going to Mexico. They just take a really long time to get there.
Yeah. Yep. um,
Say what in her.
yeah. It's like the it's like the poorly explained movies without
Yeah,
spoilers.
that's that. I love looking at films like that. If you look at something as the basic things, like the one I always go to is like Neo is a boot disc. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. That's so funny. um,
it is.
I'm trying to
What do you watch much TV then?
I used to watch way more. I was actually
Yeah,
talking today on my conversation about growing up. My dad and me and my brother Friday, like I would go to his house on the weekends. So Friday night we would sit and watch. I think 8 o'clock was it called Strange Luck, and then 8:30 was Sliders, and then 9 o'clock was the X Files, and that was the lineup for a good while until I think Strange Luck was canceled, and then I forget what other show they put in there, but it was just we that was our ritual, and I remember being heartbroken when they moved the X Files to Sunday night. It like kind of fell out of
yeah.
prime time.
Well, that's
Um,
the problem here. That's the kiss of death.
yeah, and but yeah, no, there was I mean, the golden age of television was like right when I was like end of high school, beginning of like, college. So there was so much to watch.
Yeah,
Um
yeah. From the I'm gonna say early 2000s to the mid 20, like around 2015 or so. I think
mhm,
that was when we had not so much just the best in it, but I think it was when the world realized once again, oh yeah, TV is an actual proper medium. Like
yep.
it's not just something that you film in smaller dosages. It was its own art form.
Yep.
Um, Not many of them nailed the ending. I will say some of my favorite shows have some of the worst endings. But do you have a show like that you could always just throw on now and watch?
What the heck? Sorry. A show that I could throw on now and always watch. Yeah, so I almost always well, Seinfeld is something that I will just throw on. Because again, it's one I can have in the background and like reference like the first time I ever watched it, and I get the jokes a lot of times from the time. That
Oh,
is one that
Seinfeld. What's that about?
you don't know Seinfeld?
That's the
You're
joke.
joking.
It's a show about
Oh,
nothing.
oh yeah. Yeah, that's probably the show like recently that I'll put on that that I'll just like let it play. The other one that I will occasionally put on because my kids will also like to watch it for the first time is Avatar, um, The Last Airbender, just because I
Yeah,
love revisiting that.
if you love and respect your kids, let them know that there is no sequel series. There is only one.
Yes.
And then look, there's going to be a movie for the very first time coming out about it. For
Right.
the very first time.
Right. Hopefully it's any good. Um,
It can't be
the
any worse.
Yeah, well, I don't know. They
Well,
did make
okay,
the
here's the
Halo
thing.
series.
At least get the main character's name right. They couldn't determine whether it was Ang, Ang, or Ung in
Yeah.
the movie. So,
Yeah.
look, for me, a series I could put on no matter what I'm in the mood for, and it was something that we got Disney Plus again for a free month. So we're like, oh, it's a free month, we'll use it. First thing I did, went straight to Scrubs, watched the first season again. I can watch
Scrubs?
Scrubs all day.
Nice. That's a good show.
It was so cool that it was shot in an abandoned hospital. It's a one camera um, uh, set. That's like they've only got the one camera they do. They never do multicam, so it's done. It's just done so well, and it has the moments. It has everything that you want in a series. It has that weird goofiness, which I think I kind of got my love for that from watching Ally McBeal with my mum when I was a kid, having that
Okay.
weird like offside screen sort of stuff. But yeah, Scrubs has some real serious moments in it, and some great moments of levity. It's for me, it's the perfect show in no matter what mood I'm in. Because if I'm in a sad mood, I want to see something sad. I know exactly what episode to put on.
Yeah.
Or if I want to be cheered up, all right, I know this episode.
I will grant real quick. I don't know if your mic is like close to your head or face or whatever, but I do know it's like popping a lot if you
Yeah,
get
unfortunately, it's this because I don't have my setup. It's this headset. It
okay.
has a bone conducting one, so it's got to send a pulse out just to test it every now and then. And if I'm
Oh,
talking loud at the time, it goes. Pff. So, and my
okay.
apologies to you
No,
and the
it's
listeners.
okay. I didn't know if it was controllable
Yeah,
at all.
I don't hear it. That's the problem. So I don't know when it's doing it.
Gotcha. Um, okay, so here's the real question. I guess if you could what is in your opinion the best TV series to come out? Like I don't know, ever is a tall order, but I guess what is your favorite all-time that you think is one of the best shows ever made?
Okay, best versus favorite is an interesting debate with it. Um, because I've got to judge it as a whole. I would say something like, say, Sopranos, but they destroyed the ending, so
Yeah.
it's out. But then you get shows that I really like that had an awesome ending, like Life on Mars, the English one, not the American one. But
Mhm.
it's so much more because the ending was really good and it wrapped up good. So I always constantly debate it, and I literally did this the other day, and because we looked at Screen Rants one. Um, yeah, don't do that. It'll just make you depressed. But I think if we're going to go the best overall show from episode one to the last episode, as cliche as it sounds, it has to be The Wire. The Wire doesn't falter in in a lot of the episodes. The problem that a lot of people have with The Wire is it is a seasonal story based sort of thing, and there is multiple stories, and it is a slow burn, but
Very slow.
it's worth the payoff.
Yeah.
Um, with everything. And because of the slow burn, it allows the characters to really shine. And I think that's where it is. It's not just your typical I'm the angry cop doing blah blah. I'm not just a criminal doing this because I grew up in the mainstream. Everyone is layered and dare I say diverse, but diverse of character, not just in race and religion and that.
Yeah, that show does a great job at like allowing you to understand the character's motivations. Like nothing really happens because it has to happen, but because like there's a clear line you can sort of draw across like these characters and what they've done. I really like the second season of The Wire. Um,
Yeah.
that was
And
one of my
that's the thing,
favorites.
like character is a character that I have absolutely nothing in common with. I'm not a drug dealer. I'm not black and I'm not gay, but I love that guy. Like,
Yeah,
I hated how he went out. That still pisses me off, but
yeah,
I get it. They foreshadowed enough of it any time. Um, Oh, that first season with bloody Michael B. Jordan,
Mm,
when he gets, that still gets me.
yep. Dude, Michael B. Jordan is I mean, you could tell this kid was going to be great from that from that far back. Like he did so good in that. And actually took me a minute to realize who it was because I remember watching him in that and then shortly after the show Parenthood had started and
Yeah.
he was the boyfriend of the girl in that and I was like, "Holy shit." It's this dude. Like, but he's all grown up now and he's like now he's playing like a nice, like good kid and like how funny, you know. Um that's actually a show I totally forgot about. I actually don't think I've finished that show, Parenthood I'm talking about. Um
Okay.
I think that's a very underrated show. And also it also features um one of my favorite actors and I can't think of his name all of a sudden, but he's in my pick for best show uh of all time and that's 6 Feet Under. I think it's some of the best storytelling across 5 excellent seasons. Uh, and what is this actor's name? He's not that well known, but he's done some really good stuff. He's in the
All I
show
can think of is
911 now.
Michael C. Hall, but I know it's not him.
Nope, it's his older brother in the
It's his
show.
older brother, the one that dies of the brain tumor in the last season.
Yeah, Peter Krause is his name.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he plays the father in that in Parenthood, and so it was one of the reasons I started watching it because I really liked Peter Krause. He did such a good job. I didn't like him at first, but as I watched the show, and by the time it ended, I was like, "This guy's awesome, love him." And then I saw him in Parenthood, and I was like, "Oh, this is even better" because I've been wanting a new show with this guy. And then he was in the show 911. He plays one of the firemen in that show. But yeah,
But
6 Feet Under is one. If I don't know if you've watched the whole thing or if you've
dude,
watched
yeah,
it at
dude,
all.
that was I was tossing up between that and as using my example of a show that was really good that absolutely nailed the ending.
Yeah, yeah,
That
they
that
stuck the
e-
landing in that show so
that
well,
that that ending sequence was so fitting in everything. Like how else are you supposed to end a series that's about death
right?
like that? Like and it was done in a way that felt real, like organic, heartbreaking as hell, but also not at the same time because you got to see that most of them got to live full lives, and it's not about the way that they go out.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and it was just the way like all these episodes started, right? Every single episode started with someone dying, and you see their how long they lived,
yeah,
birth year, death year, um, like every single episode started like that. So now the show's ending, showing everyone's life, and then kind of fade to black on all these people, throughout their life. Dude, I'll be the first to admit, cry like a baby at that, and I could watch it right now after 10 years and just be like, like
yeah.
it's so good. It's but it's like a
I forget
happy
his
sad.
name. The black guy's one gets me every time.
Oh,
I'm just like,
Keith,
um,
yeah,
yeah, just as he's getting the armored stuff, and it's just nothing. Like, bam, and it's gone,
yeah.
and then you're like, that,
That
no,
see, that's what I love about that show because it came at a time. Well, first of all, Alan Ball is the guy who made it, and he's associated with American Beauty. Which so if you see American Beauty and then watch that show, you can totally see the parallels in it. The style is very much the same, but the that whole relationship between uh, Keith and Michael C. Hall's character, it's like it's such it's such a difference between like the gay storytelling of today where it's just like it just felt so natural between them. It like natural in the way like
they
all
weren't they weren't gay
relationships do.
characters. They were
Right.
characters that happened to be gay.
Right. Yes,
They were characters
exactly.
first. Yeah.
Yes. And but like watching them, like watching the real life turmoil in a couple, in LA that were, you know, trying to figure out how to live together, how to come out to your family, uh, all this stuff. There was so much these characters were so complex and beautifully written. And I want every time I watch that, I just think, why can't we get anything close to this anymore? Like nothing really comes close to the shows that we've mentioned.
He spent 2 years on working on characters and dynamics before he wrote a single line of dialogue,
Like
and it
imagine,
shows.
yeah, like imagine that now. Like now it's just like, well, let me just
You've got
pull a bunch of
three
stuff out of a
hours.
hat.
It's going. Yeah, it's going on. It's going up at 7. You've got 3 hours to write it so we can cast it and then get it out. Let's go.
Yeah. It just blows my mind how, like, when you look at the qualities of shows, Sopranos, they totally, messed up the ending for sure, but like the bulk of that series is so good. The other show I was going to mention that doesn't nearly get enough love, and they canceled it before they finished it, is Carnival. I think it's one of the best written stories up to the point that we saw. And it's like one of my favorite good versus evil tales that nobody knows about. It was
Yeah, I just started
so
getting
good.
into. Just started watching it when I watched the first episode and then I googled it to see how many seasons it got and then it just come up it was canceled. I'm like, I'm not watching anymore then.
Oh, dude, it's so. But the funny thing is, well, in season 2 ends on such a cliffhanger that you're like, how could they not finish this? Like, it's insane that they didn't finish what they had started at where they left it off. It could That show again, it's just another example of how you can write very complex, very emotionally driven characters, um, but with like and with such so originally. Like you have this guy, this priest who thinks he's doing God's work, but he's the bad guy, but he thinks he's the good guy. And then you have this farm boy who has this gift of giving life but has to take life. And he thinks he's a bad guy, but he's a good guy. And there's all the stuff in between. You just don't see complex characters like this anymore. And it's such a shame. Like it genuinely, like, makes me sad that we have such beautiful, like, we have such amazing shows of the past that we probably won't get back to for. And I said this morning in my conversation. It'll probably be a generation before we get back to really great storytelling, because that's kind of what happened, previously. It took a long time to get these for people to realize that TV was such a great medium to tell stories in beyond, um, like sitcoms or whatever. And I feel like we need a lot of these companies to sort of not fail, but we need them to take these major losses and L's, because it's the only way we get people to realize, well, we need to spend 2 years work fleshing out these characters, or we need to spend more time fleshing out these characters before we put them on the screen, um, and try and fill in blanks that we think we need to fill. Uh, it's oh man, it's hard comparing, and that's, I guess, on top of it, it's what's so sad about when we look at, well, this show is good. We consider, trying to think of a good show that came on recently, like House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon is a really good show, but it's like, well, there's not much competition, like, though I mean, I think
It's
that might
also
be a
more
bit
character driven, which I like.
right.
House
And
of the
the, and
Dragon, yeah. So
and really, it's hard to compare, because it really is. I would say it does hold up to season 1 of Game of Thrones. Like I think they work.
I think without the subverting death of Ned, people wouldn't have season 1 is in high regard as what they do.
Yeah, true. Um, yeah, it's too bad. There's so much great television from that period, and honestly, HBO cornered the market for very, very long time. And it's unfortunate because now like they just don't put out good shows anymore. There's been a lot that have come
There,
out that
there
I was
actually is a new animation that a couple of people have been telling me about. That's from HBO.
really.
Yeah, they said it. They said, "How was no one talking about this?" And I did write the name down somewhere on a notepad, but um, yeah, I'm trying to think who it was that was saying it. Maybe it was Vex that was saying it.
I'm trying to
Can't
see
quite.
if I
Yeah,
Scavengers Reign, is that what it's called?
it could be. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm seeing a trailer here from let's see, October 11th. So
yeah.
it's pretty recent. So that must be it. Oh yeah, and the one the series before that they had Velma, right? That was on there. It was their
Oh
other.
yeah, I forgot about
Yeah.
that. Groundbreaking.
Oh man, it's I don't know, man. Like what? I don't know. I don't know how we come out of it. Like I don't know if you heard what I was saying, but I just think it's gonna be a while before we see
No,
like
see, I had the complete opposite. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have a huge flooding of stuff that we would never have noticed or seen. So we're going to have a lot of smaller scaled shows that are going to start coming in, small scale movies, because the big guys aren't going to be able to do anything
yeah.
because everything takes so long and the budgets and everything. So I think this is going to be not a new renaissance, but I think what it is, I think it's going to be a new direction in storytelling, and that's what I'm hoping for. Because I think, unfortunately, the model that all the big companies and everything have produced now is less than 10 episodes every 2 years for their content. So you're never going to get stuff from something like SG1 that went for 246 episodes, and its spin-off went for 7 seasons, and its other spin-off like that. Those days are gone for that sort of TV.
Yeah.
People don't want fillers. People want tight, compact stories, and I think there's going to be a lot of movie scripts that are going to be out there that are going to get turned into miniseries based
Well,
purely simply on the fact like that.
what about like the Sherlock model where it's like 3 episodes a season, but they're feature length? So you have like hour and a half, like 90-minute episodes.
I enjoyed that. I think. Sorry, my little one's yelling at me.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I love the I love the Sherlock model. I even don't mind the Amazon model that they do, where they drop the first 3 episodes and then do week to week for the next seven. I quite like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so you get to binge the first couple and kind of see how you like it and then you get yeah, that was pretty good. They did that with God, what was it called?
the boys.
Yeah, The Boys. Yeah. Yep. Uh yeah, and that's yeah, I agree. I think getting maybe getting some of these, you know, um, movie scripts into very short miniseries would be beneficial. It's like you could make your vision, but also give it, like maybe be able to expand on the world a little bit more than you could in a feature length film. Um, I don't
Yeah,
know, man.
if you could do it without it being worthlessly padded,
Right.
that's the big thing. Like we've got to avoid padding. You got to avoid filler when that because when you have half an hour filler on a thing, that's a third of your movie, a third of your episode.
Yeah.
Or if you've got an episode that in a 4 or 5 episode series that wasn't any good, or wasn't didn't move the story forward, that's 20% of your whole runtime gone.
Right.
And
Well,
that's why, like
yeah.
stuff like what they did with Boba Fett, two of Boba Fett's episodes were The Mandalorian. That's
Yeah.
25%. He had eight
Yeah.
episodes. So, yeah, so realistically, they only had 6 episodes of Boba Fett.
Yeah, and it's like a failure of understanding storytelling, which and maybe these, mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000s show, maybe it ruined it a little bit because there was a lot of like Monster of the Week, a lot of filler episode sci-fi shows that were, some of I mean, you kind of moved it forward, you moved the needle forward, but like, the X-Files got to the point too where it was Monster of the Week, but it was leaving that narrative, the what's it called? The the underlying narrative of aliens and
Yeah, so it had an overarching theme of the
right.
aliens and the government suppression and
Yeah.
everything.
Like even that at
So
some points got to be too far in between where you're like, okay, we have like 5 or 6 weeks of monsters and like, oh, now we're going back to the smoking man. Oh, now we're
yeah,
going to Mr. X. Like what about all that in between? And maybe that spoiled some or well, it spoiled the audience a little bit, but it kind of ruined like what it meant to like tell a story because they were wildly successful shows. It was a wildly successful show, and a lot of these were, but there was also when you look at them, there was a lot of bloat in the middle sometimes.
and they would deliberately place them like they know this episode's going to be a big one because we're
Mhm.
doing a lot of stuff overall. So let's put our filler directly afterwards.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Like the X Files, like they were so good, and that's one thing I miss. This is one thing I miss about TV is like you'd always have like next week on whatever, and like there was always like a big trailer for like if they were going to go back to the secret government societies and aliens, like you knew to anticipate it because of the preview of the next episode. Like even that, like like maybe that's why it worked when it did because you were waiting on the edge of your seat like, oh, what's next week going to be? What is it? What's going to happen? um I don't know, they just don't. I just feel like that element is missing, and I don't. Maybe it's because it's all live streaming services now, and we don't have to wait week to week, really.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a consumer versus a consumption issue, and that's one that we haven't really nailed. And as I said, I think the one that gets the closest is Amazon when they do their little drops to big drops, because there's a series that me and the wife really like. No one's really heard of it. It's called The Lazarus Effect.
I've heard of
So
this, and I almost started it, but I have not. Is it worth it?
season one is great, but the big problem that we had was it was 2 years since we seen it.
Mm,
And we saw the season two in 2 days, essentially.
okay.
And because
Wow.
it was all there, 8
Yep.
episodes, it was all there. We're like, oh, is that it? Sort of thing. And I think the problem was when they know it's going to be a um, bingeable series, when they're going to drop everything at once,
Hmm.
don't do the silly cliffhangers at the end of each episode, because we know that it automatically plays anyway. It's not like,
Yeah.
and then they recap what happened in the previous episode.
Right.
I'm like, what are you guys doing? And then because it's a series that involves time travel and time loops and everything, then we're seeing the same stuff that we just saw in the flashback, in the previously on at the beginning of
Right.
the episode. So it's like, oh, but yeah, it's a cool series. It's a great concept that sort of slipped at the second season. But I find that's a big thing that I have. I'll fall in love with the concept of a show before I fall in love with the characters, and if it's enough to pull me in with the characters, then I'm pretty much almost a completionist when it comes to it. Um, there are so many cool sci-fi concepts that haven't been done for a TV series. Have you ever seen the movie In Time?
Hold on 1 second, Grant. I put a message in the private chat. I have to run to the
Oh, sorry.
bathroom.
Okay, no
Sorry.
worries. Yeah,
Entertain.
yep. All right. Yeah. So there's a movie called In Time. So it's got Justin Timberlake and someone else in it, but it's essentially about how time is currency. Like everyone is essentially born with this weird immortality type thing up until when they turn 25, and then um, they start losing time. They've got a thing on their arm that determines how much time they have left, and they work full time. The movie was done as a Killian Murphy. That's the other guy that was in it. How did I forget Killian Murphy? That's terrible. Um, yeah, there's a huge like it's there's like things are separated by districts. It's a very rich versus poor type sort of movie where the main bad guy's got like a million years worth of currency, and the currency is time. So he has 1,000,000 years, which means that he will live forever. But the problem is when you've got all that time, you're afraid to use it because you've got so much more to lose. And it's a cool concept that I think could be delved into in a more expanding realm of the world. I was talking about the movie In Time.
With Justin Timberlake.
Yes, yeah, and Cillian Murphy, and I was saying the idea of that being a sci-fi type series, I think would work really well because the idea of people that are born, we don't know, everyone's just born, and then when they turn 25, the clock in their arm starts ticking down. And how the main, the high society have so much to lose, they're afraid to do anything because they've got like 1,000,000 years. They're going to be alive in 1,000,000 years. They're not going to die of old age or sickness or anything like that. But they're afraid to go on a boat because what if it sinks and we drown? We've lost all this sort of stuff.
Right.
A cool concept of that would be that there are people who actually grow old. Don't have that thing in there. They're like naturals, and I think there was something that could have been explored with that movie. It was just they poorly executed it because they wanted Timberlake in a film, and they had to essentially rush it.
Yeah.
Is there any cool concepts or anything like that that you wish could be turned into a series?
Just you were talking about this, and I was trying to think of something.
You always think of me when you're in the bathroom.
Yes.
Nice, my man.
Oh man, I don't know. That's something I would have to like think about because there's I feel weird when these kind of questions come up and I wish for things that I wish this movie was maybe turned into a series and mess around because a lot of times these movies are great because of the medium they're in and the time that they take up originally. And like
Well, okay.
even
Well, what about a movie with a cool concept that's a bad movie? Because I think we can both agree In Time isn't a great movie.
true. Man, a bad movie that we could. I don't know. Off the top of my head, it's hard to think. Um, I don't know. That's a good question and one that I want to think about
Yeah,
and revisit. Like
yeah, for
if
sure.
and when we do this again, it's something to revisit because I do think that there's something out there. Can you like? Do you have any other examples besides maybe like In Time or On Time?
Yeah. So, the Scientology movie, Battlefield, whatever it is, humans 10,000 years in the future, sort of
Right.
thing like that. I'm like, okay, that could be an interesting thing to see. They've got all this technology that's around that's ancient to them, but it's modern to us. How would a
Mhm.
society that has all this go around? What would their law? What would their law of the world be? It would be a cool thing to see. Like you've got these buildings, you've got these things of metal and everything like that that don't exist in nature. Yet these are tribal people. Would they
Mhm.
worship? Like I think there could be a cool concept like that. Having a well, I mean, technically, wouldn't even really be a post-apocalyptic because that society is thriving. They are essentially thriving. So I think something like that could work. Um, there's so many different like horror sort of things like the whole Bird Box or the what's the silent one with John
Oh,
Krasinski.
oh God, what is the name of that?
I keep calling it Whisper. People are like that's not Whisper.
I can't think of the
Stay
name of it.
silent, shut up, keep
I
quiet.
I know exactly what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
but I'm saying so. Say for instance, like a series based around that. It's sort of thing like The Walking Dead where you can develop your characters more than just putting your characters in a weird situation. Oh,
A
your
Quiet
wife's
Place.
pregnant. Quiet Place, yeah. Um, I think like I people seem to love that movie. I thought it made no sense half the stuff. I'm like, there's no way in the world he's going to give the kid batteries with a toy like come on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I actually have never seen those movies. I will
yeah, I haven't
admit.
seen the second one. But it was a family project, and that's what they wanted to do. But yeah, like I think that's a cool idea because I think that also helps. And someone like yourself who's a writer, it helps that process. Like
Mhm.
I constantly jump onto like Chat GPT and I try to figure out a what if scenario. I said, all right, give me a scenario. What if, let's just say, for instance, in Battlestar Galactica, so I want to pretend how would that affect the story? What would change? It'll give me the things because instead of me going through the entire series and watching it again and noting it, I've got notes. I'm going, okay, if I was to write this as an alternate reality, what would I do? This is my endpoint. Cylons and everything are friends. How do I get there from here? Or like in Terminator, what happens to the Terminators after they kill John Connor? What do they do? And I'm not going to go off what they do. They become a draper.
Yeah.
Um, like, I mean, like, would they just cease to function? Would it gain consciousness? Like, I like doing little exercises like that, and then
Mhm.
getting something like a Chat GPT to say, give me 10 points of in history of what would happen, and then finding a way that I can connect stuff to it.
I'd like to see something like exploring the avenues of like dreaming. It's one of the reasons I liked Inception so much was
Mm-hmm.
because I'd always been really obsessed with like dreaming and what it may have meant, and what it could mean. Does it mean anything? Is there ways to manipulate dreams in order to create memories? And like, so I would love to like maybe not a movie, maybe not a series about like Inception or any of that, but I would like I would like to I would like film or TV to explore the possibilities of it because it's just something that I've always liked is in like lucid dreaming, and
Yeah,
understanding like does it mean anything, uh is it, or is it, is it just an exercise for your brain? Is there any way to manipulate it or exercise it and be like to take control of it? I just think it's a very unexplored genre, and that's what, again, it's why I think Inception is such a good and fun movie, is because it does touch on those things and keeps it sort of grounded in, I think, areas that people have already maybe tried to experiment with, or maybe it could be possible to insert something into someone's memory. Uh, like that to me is a very interesting spot that hasn't really been explored much.
yeah, because
Um,
like dreams are those things that like even though Eternal Sunshine is more about memories, it's a dreamlike state. They put him in a dreamlike, and he's dreaming. Hence, every time when you wake up, oh shit, I forgot what it was about. But 3 seconds ago, I loved everything about that. That was so cool. I'm going to write it down. What
yeah.
happened?
Hmm.
You know.
Yep.
But when it comes to stuff like dreaming, for whatever reason, the Jacob's ladder always comes into my head.
Yeah.
That like I'm like, okay, was that a dream? Was that a hallucination? Was that
Yep.
what was that? Was he the only one experiencing that? Everyone that he knew in that dream, did they have the same thing?
Yeah.
Is this a flash? Like, what happened? I love that idea. Like, which one was the dream? Which one was reality?
Yeah. I think like memories are an interesting like subject matter because of how quickly things change, right? Like how, you know, personal accounts are, memory is very faulty. So, like personal accounts aren't always taken into consideration, especially in court settings, because a green shirt can become a yellow shirt, can become a blue shirt. Um,
Yeah,
and all of that stuff. And even like one of my favorite movies of all time that I didn't mention is 12 Angry Men. And they talk about this where, you know, there's eyewitness accounts, and, the guy's like, well, I saw the guy, he's like, playing with his nose, like he must have been wearing glasses. Like, could he really have seen that far? Like,
was he?
you
Yeah,
know,
was
people's
was
memory
it
are faulty
glasses that he was
depending
doing?
on,
Was he itching? Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
and that's a great example of a film based purely and simply around characters and interaction. and each character goes on an arc.
Yep. Yeah, no, that is, and I don't know why I didn't mention that until now, but 12 Angry Men is probably up there as one of the I I could watch it a lot, but not in the same way. Uh I can watch The Shawshank Redemption, but it's still, I think it's just a beautiful piece of filmmaking that goes unnoticed and untalked about a lot of times. I know people appreciate it, but I think, I mean, considering the fact that, well, here's the reason I think it's so great, because it's a it's a story told in one room around one table with 12 men. And the way this movie creates tension is, I mean, if you watch this movie, the very beginning, everything's wide shot, whole table. By the end, the highest tension moment, everything's close up. You like see the beads of sweat on these guys because the room is hot, it's uncomfortable. They're like mentally drained, um, and they build tension through their cinematography, and it's so brilliant because that, like, back then there wasn't special effects, or they're certainly not anything close to what they are
Not
today.
yeah.
But it was also a movie that didn't need special effects. It used practical, um, you know, practical camera work to create the tension of this tight, uncomfortable space by the end. And I mean, you feel it. Anyone who watches that movie, they feel the tension by the end. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Is someone going to get hurt here? Are they going to even come to see? Is they
Oh
going to send
no,
this guy?
not what's his name? We don't know his name. Juror number 4. Like
Yeah,
that's another cool aspect where these are nameless people. They're not. We're not finding about all their backstories and everything. We know someone's got to get to a game. That's about
yep.
as much as we know about like their backstory and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sorry, you mentioned something before about dreams, and I was trying to think of it. There was a series by had Jason Isaacs in it, called Awake.
Yes, I know you're talking about, and that was a movie I was so upset got canceled because I wanted it to be great, and it wasn't that good, but it was still really cool. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, I was gonna say Awake is that series that I love because yeah, like his family gets into a car accident. He's waking in and up out of consciousness, and every time he closes his eyes, he's in a different reality. One where his son died and his wife survived, and the other one where his wife, when it swapped,
Yep.
sort of thing. And because he has no idea which one he woke up in first, he has no idea which one's real.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I loved that series, and yeah, unfortunately only had one season.
Yeah, that was one of those that I had really, when I remember when the trailer had come out for it, I was like, oh yeah, like this is gonna be so good. And then it was, but yeah, then it didn't get renewed. And honestly, I liked it, but it wasn't as great as I hoped it was going to be.
They turned
Um,
it into a procedural cop show. That was the
yeah,
problem.
yep, yes. Um, but it was, but those are the kind of shows I want to see because I
Yeah, me
love
too. Those are the
memory.
ones that I love.
Yeah, and there was even what was so like between that and as much people like rag on the time travel thing, it interests me. The sci-fi aspect of time travel, is it possible? It really interests me. And there was a show with Josh Brolin on Amazon called
Oh, yeah, yeah. The not ranch.
Outer Range. Yeah.
Out of range.
Um,
Yeah.
And it's one of those shows that, like, I think in the writer's room looked really good. Um, but how it translated to the screen was not, it was kind of a mess. And I like what they're doing, and I like the potential that's there. I just don't know. I don't know, man. I'm so on the fence with this. Because I like the idea, like, oh my God, this kid like fell into essentially a time warp and ends up, way lost in time. And he grows
Yeah.
up in a place that, I mean, obviously he's used to it now, but like this is not his time and he knows that, but it's a secret that he's kept. And now it's possible that it's coming out, or other people are getting sucked into these things. And and again, maybe the second season will be better. but I hate the fact that I have to watch a second season in order for it to get better. You know, I want
Yeah.
it from, you know, again, maybe another year in the writer's room would have helped like cut the fat a little bit from.
Well, what would you have trimmed the?
I don't
Uh,
understand so the sheriff, the woman, I understand, like I I don't really, it has nothing to do with her being a woman, but I'm like, okay, she's lost in time now. How the fuck does she get back? Right? Like she's there. Her Indian friends are there. The the girl, I'm
the
trying to
young
figure
girl, the young
the
girl.
the blonde.
Okay, I thought you meant the granddaughter, the
So
redhead.
wait, isn't hold on. So this is I really should go back and watch the show now because now I'm mixing up my details. The young girl in the show is the girl who stumbles across the ranch, correct? So like
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. The
yeah,
girl that comes there says that she's got a connection to the place. That's his granddaughter.
that's his granddaughter, right?
Yeah,
So the in between place, like the you know, so he falls in the hole or gets pushed in the hole, and then he finds himself standing. She's there. It's like the world's kind of tinted blue. She's standing there. There's like the all the spotlights on him.
yeah.
Like they never really explained this place, and that to me was a huge mistake. Is
Well,
that you
it's not
don't?
that. I didn't take it as a place. I took it as that's the future because you've got the neighbor because
Yeah,
the neighbor's been going there and the neighbor who we've been trying to get that place for ages. He was there. Um,
yep,
and
yeah,
yeah, there's obviously some sort of radiation that's been given off to it. Hence everyone's in the hazmat suits and different things, and um, he obviously goes missing, and then she says, "Well, he's gone missing, and he told me about this place and the time." And they've gone, "Well, that hasn't happened yet. This is what we've got to do." And yeah, it's a weird way to do a series. I enjoyed it for what it was. I just think that yeah, I think there could have either been more or, like you said, trim some fat off. But my problem is I don't know what I would get rid of off the top of my head.
yeah. Or you know, I maybe I wouldn't have like gotten rid of much, but I would have explained a little more. Like I would have given the audience a little bit more because it felt like there was a lot of questions asked and nothing was really paid off by the end. And that to me like is again the only way I can really get more of the story or to understand what's going on is to watch more. And I understand that's part of the reason they do it. Like we're gonna ask a bunch of questions and we'll pay it off in later seasons. But I think you need to answer some questions at the end of the first season
Yeah,
because
you can't do a Lost. You can't do a mystery box shit. And
right.
I definitely felt yeah, it felt
And that
more mystery box
yeah,
because he'd say and stuff would happen, and then he wouldn't talk or mention about it for 2 episodes, and it would just go back to the normal show, and you're like, wait, what the hell?
yeah. And that's like I want a deeper connection to Brolin's character. And I felt like the show couldn't really figure out who it wanted you to root for. And at times, and maybe this was intentional, but it felt at times that like Brolin's character was intentionally deceptive, but like the show wanted you to think he didn't know what was going on. And that
Yeah,
was like
they
confusing to me because I was like, does he
it
not know
was
what this
deceptive
is?
to us. That was the problem, and that's you don't want to
Yeah.
deceive your yeah.
Yeah, and that yeah, no, that's perfectly put. And that was where I was like losing me. I'm like, don't deceive us. Like, give us the tidbits, but like make everyone else in
What
the show confused. Like
where
that's
it's
what.
supposed to be on.
But that's what like Game of Thrones works so well because we see what's going on, and the tension is built because we know that so and so is alive or dead, but all these other people don't, and they're trying to figure it all out. Um, and but yeah, it felt like they were intentionally trying to confuse us, and I'm like, no, this it's not working because I don't. In some ways, I don't have a reason to come back. I'm like, well, you just kind of left me just questioning everything. And again, I didn't feel a strong connection to Brolin's character, and that drove me nuts because I mean, Brolin's a brilliant actor. Um, but yeah, and the crazy like brother, the neighbor kid, like I could not figure that fucking guy out. I'm like,
Yeah, like yeah, I didn't get that, and like the guy who plays his son that just karate chopped the bloke in the neck and then went, well, what are we gonna do? And he's just like, I'm gonna throw him in this hole, knowing that you come back in the future. That's what I didn't get because he's been
right,
in the. So yeah, I don't get it. There was one series that if you ever get the chance to, it was a victim of the first big writer strike in early 2000. Shh, darling, just give me a quick second. And I know you want to go tap on it. There you go. You go tap. Good girl. Journeyman. Have you heard anything about that?
no, I haven't. No,
Kevin McKidd. It was 2006 or seven, so it was around the writer strike. Um, One day he finds out that he can accidentally travel in time. He has no control over it.
I've heard of it.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, he goes back in time and then comes back, tries to tell his wife. She doesn't believe him. So he takes the ring. He said, give me your ring. I've got to go get this fixed. And then he goes back to their place before it was before they bought the place, before they put the concrete slab in there, buries it in the dirt when they put the concrete slab over it, does his mission or whatever it is. It's like not like a quantum leap sort of thing, but he's got something that he has to do before he
Mhm.
comes back. And then he digs up the porch and proves it to her. And it was really just starting to get good, but the writer strike happened, and it was the first show to get cut
Oh
because it
bummer.
was it was the newest one and it was an expensive one. But yeah,
That's yeah.
yeah, that's another cool concept that hasn't been done. Accidental time travel.
That is, yeah, like I said, time travel for me is a I like it. I think time travel can work. It's the multiverse shit that to me seems like a cop out for, lazy storytelling. But I think time travel can serve an interesting purpose, especially if done properly. Uh, like I don't always love the like time loops where you go back, like you can go back and forth and have no consequences. Like I think that's kind of weird. I like time travel in the way that you could possibly, like you could travel back in time, but you would have
So
um
consequential time travel versus
right,
say predestination or time loops or anything to do with the grandfather paradox.
right, yes. Um Grant, I saw that you're gonna have to head out, and I think that's fine. I think it's a good place for us to sort of end, um, because this was the perfect thing for me to do tonight because it was much needed. So thank you for suggesting this, and I think we should definitely do it again because this was
No, no worries, man. I knew that if we started getting into time travel because it's a subject that we both love,
yeah,
we were going to be here all day. Like we want to do this again, and you want to do a time travel thing where even if we're just discussing the ins and outs and
yeah.
um, what realistically could happen, what movies get right wrong. I'd love to do that because that's my jam. Like if I see a short story on YouTube and it says time travel, I don't care if it looks like it's a homemade thing. I'm gonna watch it.
um yeah, dude, totally. Like let's for sure try and plan some out, and we'll do the time travel episode next. You got anything coming up that you want to tell people about that they should watch or do?
Yeah, got the full Aussie tonight. So be me, Raging Rhino, on there doing some videos and some reactions. It should be fun.
Nice. Um, Thank you everyone for coming over here to my new live channel. Like I said, I'll be doing many more live streams on here to build up this channel. Midweek Hump's going to stay on on the main channel. I might dual cast it to this one as well, just to sort of get people familiar with it. But for now, that show will stay on the main channel. But everything else live will be over here. And then my gaming channel is also Shagsworth Gaming. That can be found on the tabs on the top. But thank you guys for joining and listening in on on our favorite movies and TV shows. I think it was a great palate cleanser. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope anyone enjoys it on the VOD. Appreciate everyone, and we'll see you guys. So tomorrow night, the midweek hump is happening. I will not be there. Everyone else is running the show for me. I need a mental break, just from stuff. Nothing to do with the show. I love everyone there. They're carrying the ball for me tomorrow, and I thank them. But thanks again, Grant, for coming and suggesting this, and thank you, everyone.
Anytime,
See you
brother.
next time. Thanks, guys.